Hello and welcome to In a Spiritual Sense, where we discuss all things spiritual. From growing your intuition, speaking with spirit guides, diving into past lives, the paranormal, and more, join me, Stacy Piagno, where we work to bridge the gap between science and spirit. Hello and welcome back to In a Spiritual Sense. I'm your host, Stacy Piagno, and for those who are tuning in today, you are in for a treat because today we will have with us special guest Jyoti Ma, who will be sharing with us her wisdom and knowledge of this time we are entering as a collective. A little bit of background on Jyoti. She is an internationally renowned spiritual teacher who has cultivated projects. A little bit of background on Jyoti. She is an internationally renowned spiritual teacher who has cultivated projects that demonstrate ways of life that honor the earth and all peoples. As the grandmother vision keeper of the Center for Sacred Studies, she co-founded Kayumari with spiritual communities both in America and Europe. Other projects she has helped to convey are the International Council of 13 Indigenous Grandmothers and the Unity Concert. She is the founder of The Fountain, whose mission is to restore an economic model that is based on reciprocity and collaboration, guided by nature and the sacred. Currently, as a delegate of the Mother Earth Delegation of United Original Nations, a collaboration with The Fountain has grown, creating a global movement for and with the Earth that is ready to activate the new day. Everyone, please welcome to the show, Jyoti Ma. Hello and welcome back to In a Spiritual Sense. I am your host, Stacy Piagno, and I must say, when I think about those whose intent is to nurture and inspire and uplift, and how we are all sprinkled throughout the earth, and we're all physically different with race and gender and age and experience, but we're all in this time and space together. I sometimes feel finding each other in our most authentic forms can sometimes take on a journey of its own. And to have the opportunity today to speak with someone who walks in their most authentic self is not only a pleasure, but a gift. So, Jyoti, thank you so much for joining us today. I think that this is going to be such a beautiful opportunity for everyone to listen and learn. So thank you so much for coming on. Everyone, please welcome Jyoti Ma.
Oh, Stacy, thank you for having this good thought. And I'm really humbled to be able to sit here at your table today and to open a dialogue, especially right now because we're sitting right on the cusp of the spring equinox, a time of renewal, a time when seeds are cast that will bring good fruit for all of us. And so with that kind of intention, I want to lean into you and your own wisdom and all those that are gathered with us around this holy fire of this spring equinox time, this new beginning, this moment where we come out of where we're standing right now when the light is equal to the dark. We're standing in a moment of balance. And so let's flow into our dialogue with that idea lit up.
I love it. What a beautiful time. Well, Jyoti, I would love for you to start us off with a prayer, as you do best, to help us become centered and conscious for today's conversation.
I would love to. I'd love to pray. So if everyone would just take a moment. Everything is moving so fast around us right now, and it's sometimes swirls us a lot. And so if you can just take a moment to step right into the center of that swirl, where the still place is, and sit down in it, right in the center of your own being. And let's share a breath and breathe that breath right into your being, where the light and the sound of the universe reside, so that it can brighten itself and empower its sound and fill every cell of your body, lighting your entire form up. For this is a moment where the call for the light bringers is loudly shouting out across this beautiful Mother Earth. And next breath you take, breathe deeply down into that same space so that it will radiate itself out on all sides of you. So you can be the fully lit star that fell from heaven to plant a seed of possibility in this new creation of the new dawn. And then take one more breath and breathe into that fully lit sacred space you walk with, that you carry, that you fill with your light. And breathe into it again until you feel it radiate out till it touches that next star seed. And so it goes until we feel it create a space of oneness that we can all enter together in today as we circle up around the planet and speak to the holy fire that holds its center. Oh, Mother, Father, God, this is Grandma Jyoti here, sitting here on the sacred territory of the Pomo and the coastal Miwok peoples, offering up this prayer of gratitude, a prayer that says, thank you. Thank you for this life that you brought into this existence of this creation in this very prophetic moment of time. Thank you for the morning star that announced this day would come, and the sun that listened and brought the light of day, that we might all stand up inside of it and call our full presence into being. Thank you for the tall standing ones, those old redwoods that are circled round my house, and all the other trees that are scattered across this planet, helping the breath of life to move and move in currents of, like a river does, to bring good health and to awaken possibilities inside of us. Thank you for the creepy crawlies and those that fly and those that swim, the two-leggeds and the four-leggeds, and all the diversity of form of this beautiful creation. Thank you for the grandmother, that first grandmother that dreamed all of this into place and then breathed her breath into it to give it life and start it on its movement. Thank you to her that has held this dream for so long and is dreaming us now into the new dawn, a time that has been prophesied by all paths of spirituality around this planet for generations and generations and generations. A time when one cycle is ending and another one is opening, a time to celebrate that the ending is falling into the beginning, as the Kogi say in their prophecy. In India, they call this time the Kali Yuga, ending cycle of a 26,000-year cycle, a time when everything falls down on itself so that it can birth through that and open itself to the next 26,000-year cycle. What a magical moment. Certainly one filled with challenge. Certainly one filled with what we must do in order to maintain the center of who we are and show up completely for this moment of selfless service that this creation has awakened us to. This moment of choice when the human species is actually deciding whether it wants to go as part of the species in the creation of the new dawn or whether it's completed itself. That's quite an impressive moment. So help us stay humble in ourselves. For through that humility, we will come to look in the mirror of truth at who we are, not with blame and judgment in our hearts, but with love and compassion and acceptance. For hope, we are opening ourselves, Creator, like never before here, to a moment of choice when cycle changes are happening and the turning, the great turning, is occurring. All the signs are here. The Kogi tell us it's important to watch the ending so we stay informed, but to stay centered and focused on that which is breaking through. And for all those that have gathered around this holy fire today, they certainly have awakened and have some understanding on that they're glimpsing at the new dawn, even as we speak about it here. Maybe some here have come to the fire because it was bright and it drew them, and they didn't even understand why they came to gather. Some may be here that have gone through many fires and many turnings and came because their souls are old and they have a way of understanding what the Mother Earth needs in such moments of evolution. Some come because they've mastered this walk and are here to help guide all of us. And some come because they are emissaries of that which is dreaming. What a beautiful community we have gathered at this holy fire. And for that, Creator, I give you great, great thanks. So much happening in this spring equinox moment. We're just poised to enter a time when the light and the dark is fully balanced in itself, a time when the renewal energy is stirring so much. But we're coming out of a time of the darkness. We're coming out of the time where things slept and hibernated and got still. For nature itself in her cycles teaches us how to walk through the evolutionary moment I'm praying about. For everything is about a cycle of time. And when you step out of time, you step into that present moment of time, where that which was and that which will be sits in the moment of that which is. It is in this moment that I offer you up great thanksgiving. Help us stay courageous in our walk, still in our minds and open in our hearts as we walk this walk that is divinely presenting itself with every breath we take. May we stay safe and protected. May we listen deeply to the instruction our souls are whispering to us and sometimes shouting at us about. We take that moment of instruction and put it into action. For that truly is when prayer becomes movement. And movements bring change. We are evolving. And we are a statement of unity, a moment when we must embrace our full diversity and celebrate life so that we might remember ourselves and come back to an original place inside ourselves that recognizes that all life is sacred. And so it is. And so it shall always be. I give great thanks. I give great thanks. I give great, great thanks.
Beautiful. I am at peace. Thank you so much for starting us with that, Jyoti. I would love to first kind of dive into this time that we are entering. I have heard you speak before about the collective entering the time of the heart and the eagle condor prophecy. And I would love for you to go into that and really share what this time is for our listeners.
Well, I'll start with the eagle condor prophecy. My community, I have a community that's going on 4 decades old. And it's been a community that came together with a spiritual intention. We came together out of our innocence through our devotion. We came together because we knew it was time to step out of throwaway society, a Western model of society that when something gets too old, you just throw it away. Or if you don't like it, you just throw it away. And that can be with objects or people. Mm-hmm. So we chose to say, no. We want to come back to us relationships that are grown through longevity, that are willing to walk together, even when the times get challenging and hard and troublesome, when everything inside says, I'm out of here, that's the moment we lean into each other and we support each other. And we were committed to awakening process. And I say all this to you because out of that movement, we, after 2 or 3 years in the growing of our community, we woke up and realized that we were inside a prophecy, the eagle condor prophecy. We didn't come to it because we were seeking it. It found us, swallowed us, and then we were in it going, whoa, we didn't understand such things. We didn't understand it at all. What I've come to understand it in just the little short time we've walked with it is 4 decades, is that these prophecies are in the original days. Mother Earth, she gave original teachings and protocols, which we call mother law, to all of her original people, so they wouldn't know how to care for the root of life, this root of the tree of life, so it would grow steady through time. And some of the prophecies prepare us, and then prophecies come to also instruct us. So the way that the eagle condor prophecy was shared with me, and I'm going to briefly give it to you. So I mean no disrespect to it, because we could sit for a long time more than we have here today. But there was a time when North America, South America, and Central America were one piece of land. And then there was a great shaking on the earth and a big shifting of her, and those broke apart, making North America, South America, and Central America, that connecting body. They said at that time that the North would carry the energy of the eagle, of the mind, of that electric energy of fire that takes the mind and ideas and starts to move things on the planet. They said that the South America would take the energy of the condor, of the heart, and of that place where love and harmony and compassion grow from our hearts. The intelligence of the heart would guide things. They said that there would come a time when the eagle would almost overpower the condor. But just at that moment, they would turn and they would start to fly together. And that's what they've done, you see. And they said when that moment happened, that we would be moving towards the new dawn, an era that's been prophesied about for a long, long time. Now, I've been working very, very closely with the 4 original people of Colombia for a decade, and they walk with the eagle condor prophecy. And what they share from the Kogi is that they say this is a moment when the ending is falling into the beginning, and the beginning will roll out in 2026. Now, they told us this part of the prophecy in 2013 because they knew that we were entering a 13-year era of cleansing and deep, deep purification that would shake us and cleanse us and move us and reform us and help us heal and let go of old things that no longer serve us through that cleansing, so we would be ready to carry ourselves into the new dawn. They said it was important to listen to the ending as it fell so you would stay informed, but to focus yourself on that which was breaking through. And that which was breaking through would be carried by those individuals and organizations and movements that were based on the original principles of unity, heart, reciprocity, collaboration, compassion, balance, harmony. All life is sacred. These are the original principles that Mother gave to the original people in the original days. In fact, we're returning to those original days and an original way of life that's based on those principles. And it's a work. It's quite a work. But the prophecies got us ready. They brought us through initiations. They brought elders to us to teach us, to pass things on to us that would help us move through these times and to help us wake ourselves so we could remember who we were. You see, there was a time when all of nature, there was a dialogue that went on. There was a living presence that we felt and we fed every day, and we had ceremonies to honor and celebrate with, and cycles of life that we acknowledged through these ceremonies nature had given in order to care for the stages of life. And then about the end of the 1400s, we had a situation that started colonization. And there was a letter sent out by the Pope at that time. And it was sent out across the lands, across all the places he had his ministers going into these lands. And he said, once you get there, the ones you find are less than human. They must come into our churches and they must learn our languages and our way of life. And if they choose not to, then kill them and take their land. Most people don't know that story. They don't. And, that's how they've kept us sleeping around it. Those letters that were sent are called the papal bull, and they're still actively in our court system today, being used to take land from our original people. But what happened then, and we're in dialogue with the Vatican, they're looking at all of this. They want to correct some of these things, because we have to go back to where that bad seed got planted. Because the moment we thought that land was to be possessed, then we started to objectify it. We cut ourselves from the nature of who we are, and we started to move in a more colonized state of domination over the feminine, over the earth, extracting things from her that we thought we needed to take care of ourselves, with no regard for the earth, that she's a living being. And we started to get these hierarchical kinds of systems built so that there were some that were lords over us. In the original days, we all sat in a circle and everybody was valued. And our nature and the divinity that lives in each of one of us was recognized and cared for, respected. We respected each other's differences and our diversity as gifts the Creator had given us, you see. So when we cut that cord, when we cut from the earth herself, when we cut from the mother that birthed us and holds us and loves us, then we cut something inside of us that was significant to bringing our own humanity forward. So, but these times were known. These times we knew were coming. The prophecies had told the people that would happen, and that we would go down this trail, and that we would come to a certain place when people would start to wake, and the prophecies would start to wake in people and call them forward and remind them, oh, don't forget what it was like when you loved your Mother Earth, when you realized she was this magnificent being that has a family, that has the sun and the moon and the stars and planets that move through the cosmos with her, and that we're all part of that. So that's just a little touch of how I experience prophecy, what it's done in my life, and what it's still doing, because I'm in service to that.
It reminds me when we talk about, bringing things to the surface to cleanse, it reminds me of the individual body, because what I've learned in the past several years is, Spirit speaks to us on the macro and the micro. So what we see around us is reflected within an individual and vice versa. And it reminds me of, if the body is sick, sometimes we have to, get things out of us. And it reminds me of everything going on. A lot of people around my environment will say, oh, things are getting bad, and there's, there's fights and wars and this and that. And yes, that is happening, but it's what you were speaking on. We have to get down to the root of issues to bring them up, to acknowledge them, to then be able to love them, to release them. And so I love that story that you shared. And that is what I see happening around us. I heard you say one time on another interview, it was a little while back, and it was beautiful yet alarming. And it was about this time that we're entering. And you mentioned that Mother Earth is trying to tell us she can't breathe. And you had kind of connected it to, the George Floyd situation that had happened in COVID. Can you speak a little more on that and the importance of how, spirit speaks to us in these ways, and, why it's important for us to listen to these messages and really be receptive of them?
Absolutely. And in that kind of moment, sometimes things are shouting out at us. And if we can listen deeply, that's why I call it deeply listening, not just surface listening, but really deeply listen. That was a remarkable time, because I realized a realization just landed one day in me. It was like, wow, there's the Mother Earth. She's mirroring for us what we need to pay attention to. And if we will pay attention to what she's mirrored for us, then we will see the change happen in her, which will mirror the change that happened in us. It's like, and so at that moment, it was, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. George Floyd said, I can't breathe. And he died with that on his lips. That became a mantra around the planet, for we can't breathe. Some of our nations are so oppressed by the system we are continuing to perpetuate that they can't breathe. All of a sudden, the pandemic released itself upon us. And the next thing you know, all of us are having this moment of, I can't breathe. So now she's expanded this teaching to say, are you listening? Are you listening what I'm telling you? I can't breathe. She's telling us she can't breathe. Mother Earth can't breathe. When she can't breathe, we can't breathe. When her waters get so much toxin in them that we can't drink clean water anymore, and we're made of water. We were water babies, We're born inside our mama's uterus. We're put together. Our bodies are formed inside the water. And when the water comes, then we come. That's how birth happens. What happens when the bloodline of this planet, water, the holy element of water, when we have not paid attention enough to keep it clean, our blood will start to have big problems. And we're starting to see these issues with different diseases that have to do with our blood, which then have to do with the falling apart of our organs, which have to do within the problems with the body. When I work with someone that's got a debilitating or life-threatening disease, first thing we have to do is we have to embrace and accept that we got the disease. And a disease means dis-ease. We're not at ease anymore. And if I can embrace what has brought me my dis-ease, my discomfort, my imbalance, then I'm going to start to listen more deeply to that which inside of me has the wisdom and knows. And if I will humble myself enough, then it will bring me back to a time in my own history when maybe that seed of disease got planted. And if I can get back to that and uncover it, forgive it, release it, then all of a sudden the spirit of myself comes back to an alignment that allows my form to bring my presence back into it. And when my presence is fully in my form, There is no disease. The disease that has got us in the grips globally right now is greed. And we gotta really take a moment and embrace that and look in the truth of what that means. Greed and oppression are a disease that are working together that can annihilate us as a human species. The earth, she's going to be just fine. I mean, she's been through, they say this is her sixth extinction moment, her sixth major turning. So she'll be just fine. And she's moving from these lower chakras where we learn about our survival of who we are as a species. She's moving us, all of us, into the heart, which is the first step into our ascension as human beings. You know, a friend of mine said one time, first part of your life, your human becomings. Next part of your life, your human doings. And the last part of your life, your human beings. So we're literally entering a time, and for the very first time as a species, we will get to experience what it's like when our beingness has been fully integrated back into its form. So that's a moment of celebration, but it's not an easy process, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to love ourselves a lot. Mm-hmm. We have to forgive ourselves a lot, and we have to step out of the drama that says there's right and wrong and good and bad and judgment. We've got to step out of that drama. It's an old story, and we're moving into this new story that sees all things for just what they are, the uniqueness, the authenticity of just what you are, because every single one of us is unique. And without you here, the story that's weaving would not be the same. Mm-hmm. You're that significant and that glorious and delicious.
You know, you kind of touched on my next question with everything that we just talked about. You know, how can we take all of this information and then walk in a sacred way? You know, you mentioned stepping outside of the story and giving compassion. I would love for you to expand on that. And how can we, you know, not just talk about it, but be about it in a way that is healthy for us as individuals and healthy for us as a collective?
One of my grandmothers, Agnes Pilgrim of the Council of 13 Indigenous Grandmothers, she used to say the longest, shortest journey that we had to make in this time that we're in right now was these 14 inches from the head to the heart. Our heart has to fall into, our head has to fall into our heart. We, in the West, we have cultivated this thinking. Remember the eagle? We've cultivated this mind, this air, this fire that creates our thinking and our mind. But now we must still it, and we must bring it back into the heart. And when we do that, there's an intelligence that lives in our heart that gets to operate again. And when it gets open, your heart gets open, and it starts to operate again, you begin to feel. You begin to feel. And actually, I'd love to share with you, maybe I can send you the link and you can weave it into this interview, that there was I'm working really closely with a beautiful man called Jeremy Whelan. And he's he's been walking with wisdom keepers around the planet. I met him in that kind of work. And he's putting together a film about some of the work of the wisdom keepers. And out of that, he created a film that I'd like to share with you. Are you listening? Mm-hmm. And one of the things that strikes you in it is that can you feel? And they have all these scenes of floods pushing cars and people away, and all the plastics in the ocean that are harming so much, and these kinds of destructive behaviors. But can we feel? If we feel into this moment, we do a whole lot in the West to completely distract ourselves from feeling any of it. Let's go read a book. Let's go have intellectual dialogue. Let's see what we can do to fix it. Mm. That's our Western mentality. But if you allow yourself to embody and feel into the situation, there's a wisdom that will come forward, and it will tell you what you need to do in this moment of time that you're standing in. Because the instruction of our time right now, too, is stay in the present moment. If you stay in your present moment, you don't let your mind run ahead, because if it runs ahead, then your ego's running ahead too, and it's going to get scared. Mm-hmm. If you'll take your mind and you let it run backwards, then all of a sudden you've got regret you're pulling into your present moment. But if you just trust the divine that lives in you will bring exactly what you need to the present moment you're in, then the alchemy of your own awakening will bring you to your authenticity. And the rhythm with which you do that to get there will shift from a doer to one that follows and is in the being, in the listening, in the feeling process of that moment. I mean, if you think about it, everyone here has probably had a moment of aha, when something went off. Maybe you were sitting at the beach and the sunset was so off the charts, you totally forgot yourself. And you were just feeling into that precious moment. That's what I'm talking about. And I think that's a practice that has to be cultivated. Mm-hmm. That's why spiritual practices and some of the many things that there's so much now around the planet with meditation, following your breath, doing these works like breath work that allows you to step out of yourself and be held by a moment where you totally feel and move things and release things and receive things. All of the above seems to go on. Does that touch your question?
Yeah, absolutely. More stillness, more internal. I just heard something recently, and it was talking about how I can speak in the West, how, we focus so much on healing the physical, well, we need to rest and we need to work out our bodies, but it lacks that spiritual aspect. And the physical is just a piece of us. The spiritual is another piece of us that people are not acknowledging. So yeah, I think that's a beautiful answer for that. Let's get into a little bit about the work that you're currently doing to restore the protocol of the earth. You probably have touched on it, but can you explain a little about what the vision is and, how can we understand the importance of this vision and how it affects us? Again, it's kind of what we've been talking about, but, share with us what you're doing in your projects. I know it's probably a hard question.
Well, the ones I'm working closest with right now that have come out of and have been cultivated out of the work of carrying a prayer for unity and peace amongst all nations by my community for all these years is called the Fountain for Natural Order of Our Existence. I've been working with that for about 10 years, and out of that has come an understanding and an instruction that we must return to those original principles. So we've just come back from Kauai, where we brought 20 of our collaborating partners, philanthropists, those that are running movements around the planet, those that have businesses, small and large, came to Kauai to spend 4 days in what we called a creators lab. And we called it that so everybody would come and embrace the unknown of it, not come with an agenda or what am I going to get out of this? See, that's still that extractive attitude. What am I going to get if I go? Well, no. What are we going to? We've been called to sit at this table of unknowing together. What does it mean to embody original principle? Not just cognitively understand it, but to fully embody it. So we had our elders there that began to teach us the original principles of the Hawaiian people. We had elders there that brought us an understanding of the Otomic Toltec people of Mexico. We had those that were there to show us and share with us stories and teachings of the original principles of the Oglala Sioux people. We had a young woman there that brought us into decolonizing training, so we can literally see how we got all trapped inside this box that keeps us smaller than who we truly, truly are, and unpack that out of a kindness for ourselves, more than out of a guilt or anger towards what's been. And she represented the Yupik people. And as the days rolled on and this worked through us, we began to feel our way into that original principle. Let's say reciprocity. And reciprocity, when it starts to sit down inside of you, you start to see the balance of flow. You start to feel the breath as a symbol of reciprocity, because I breathe out and then I breathe in. I give to my body and I share from my body. I give to my body and I share from my body. Just like the ocean, the ebb, her breath moves the ocean like an ebb of the tides coming in and going out. You begin to understand there's an intelligence inside this principle of reciprocity. And when you begin to observe where it is, the teaching of reciprocity lives in nature around you, you begin to see how the rain falls and drips down the leaves and goes onto the ground, and how the sun comes and the steam goes up and the water moves, and the reciprocity of water and its cycle is moving always all around us all the time. You begin to feel into what it feels like when you're in full reciprocity. There's a stillness, there's a balance, there's a sense of well-being. And so this is the teachings now that we came away realizing we have a vehicle of training that we can bring people that have never thought about original principles to a better understanding by emerging them in a new way of thinking and feeling and being that has a wholeness to itself. And now we're working with those same companies so that we can, Alexis, who brought the decolonization training, she is now designing a 9-week program so we can bring these into other businesses and share them with individuals and help us return and create or restore a culture inside businesses and movements and communities that's based on has that foundation of the original principles and that original instruction. Can you imagine that inside your business, your original principles for running your business have to do with compassion and love and reciprocity and balance and unity, and all life is sacred? Mm-hmm. And that Mother Earth is sitting in the boardroom bringing the instruction for where that company is going to go next in order to make sure all life is tended to, equalizing all life as sacred, sitting in circle with all life. These are some of the teachings that are coming forward that our elders are coming to share. The way it was showed to me is there is a table being set right now. And every single one of us has a thread that we've been cultivating through our family generational line forever. And there's something qualifying itself with the thread we've carried from the roots of ourselves, every single person. And those that have ready, come to the table, identify that thread. The blessing is we have our original people who have brought their thread unbroken through these challenging times of history and are at the table and with their courage to encourage us how to weave those threads so that we can begin to reveal the presence of a new dawn and this new 26,000 year cycle that we're on the cusp of. So that's some of our work. that we're bringing right now. We're also in the process of helping do land back projects, projects that bring sacred territories and keystone species, those species that are at risk of disappearing, are threatened for extinction, that we are helping to, through the Earth's instruction, where do we go to secure some of those sacred sites so that we will keep that ecosystem, this biodiverse regions that are right now being held by the original people, the last biodiverse cultural systems that are still on this earth are being protected by our First Nation peoples, by original peoples. They're dying right now as we speak on the front lines, protecting them, not because it's their territory. You see, when we bought land, we made it territory. Mm. But when we take our fences down and we realize there is one earth and one peoples and one way of life, earth way of life that can be very diverse in its application, you see, then when all of that takes place, we start to return to something that has a common sense and a sense of self that goes way beyond survival techniques and begins to instruct us in our oneness. And love starts to open its door. And love is the strongest medicine on this planet that there is. So that's some of the work that we're also doing to protect those original peoples, those original territories, and bring their teachings out into the world. So one they feel it's time to offer, so that all of us can begin to benefit from the moment of time we're all standing in.
Mm. Yeah, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for everything that you are doing and everyone. I know I'll probably say it again before this episode is over, but you truly do inspire me, and I'm sure anyone who has been in your presence. So thank you for that and for sharing that. Something that you told me, it was the first time that we had met, and it was during one of the fireside chats that you hosted for the Center of Sacred Studies. And you talked about a little bit about the importance of just showing up. Mm-hmm. What does that mean for our listeners? Can you touch on that? To show up. Why is it important to just show up?
Well, what I've discovered along the trail of our path, our spiritual path, is that when you come to something like that you don't quite understand, I will say to folks, you have just found a magnificent point of study. And a point of study means that nobody's going to come and tell you about that or answer that question. It means it's opened the door that's going to bring many answers to the question and the diversity of how that could be answered. For us, we were given this instruction with our community early on. She said, just show up. And that sounded very simple. But when you start to apply that in your life, when that moment comes when you just don't want to go there, just show up. Don't come with an agenda. Don't come with an expectation. Don't come with a need for anything. You just show up and you see what's there and what greets you, what comes to sit with you. You show up. When you have one of those moments where something's hard in a relationship, what happens if the people just show up? Not to prove to each other who said it right way or the wrong way, or my story's bigger and stronger than your story, or my wound's bigger than your wound, or any of those kind of lower vibrational kind of spaces and story. But if you just show up, because you see, when you just show up, you begin to step out of a lower understanding and frequency, and you allow yourself to come into the place of what is. And you begin to take off those old lenses that had you see things in black and white and right and wrong and good and bad and separated, divided, spaces and categorize spaces, which is what the mind does. It categorizes, it puts things in boxes so it can understand and analyze itself. The heart opens and there are no boxes. So when that happens, then all of a sudden you get to step into this place and you see for what it is. I remember one time the mother said to me, every one of you is an herb in my garden. Your job is to fully potentiate yourself. And then I'll decide when I'm cooking the soups to serve to the world, which soup you need to be in to make the potential of that soup the medicine of a time. And so it takes away our need of this success-driven kind of story to just show up in the present moment and receive what's there. And then once you do that and integrate it, she takes you to the next moment and you do the same kind of thing. In the what is station of life, then you're looking at the bigger picture. Then everybody that sits in a circle in our community, we want to hear everybody's voice, because the way she gave it to us, everybody's voice is an aspect of myself. So if I listen to everybody's voice, whether I agree or don't agree, or whether it triggers me or whatever it does, but if I really listen to everybody's voice, then I get a better understanding of my story, my full story. And then it's not about good or bad anymore. Then it's just what you are. So if you are an herb in the garden and you're a cactus person, maybe you're pretty sticky and it's hard and you got to figure out how to hold that cactus person without getting stuck. But once you do and you get inside, you see there is a juicy, sweet center. Maybe the herb in the garden is that you are an orchid. You are just amazing and beautiful and you're strikingly, but you're so fragile and gentle. We have to be more gentle with the orchids in the garden. And so it goes, you know. So when you look at this big picture right now that we're sitting in, you can see it as, well, there's a war over there. Oh, there's a flood over there. There's an earthquake over there. There's all the river banks are drying out over there. There's starvation over there. There is a new way of cleansing water over there. The youth are rising up and they have an inspiration that is a fire like never I've seen. I just heard a song from over there that brought me back to an understanding of, wow, something so much bigger than any of us is happening right now, and I'm in it. You see, it's the bigger picture that we can hold that allows us to hold the moment we're in. It's not myopic in its view.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's absolutely beautiful. And I love that you had mentioned that to me one time before, the herbs, and that was my favorite. Okay, so before we sign off, there is one more thing that I would love for us to do. I listened to another podcast, The Time of the Feminine, which I really enjoyed. And you had an interview on there. And at the end, you had shared a beautiful mantra or affirmation that I still use today. And it was a way, and you can add to this, to connect us to Mother Earth and to the divine feminine. And, you know, it goes hand in hand with manifesting and with, you know, centering us with her. And it was, I am the divine mother. She lives in me, and whatever she needs comes to me easily. And I would love for you to lead us through that. So if it resonates with anyone, they can adopt that for themselves. And if there's anything else to share on that, add.
Well, I'm a little bit of a storyteller, you know.
Yes, I love it.
I'm just going to give a brief understanding of how the mantra came.
Okay.
because my community and I are the ones that convened the International Council of 13 Indigenous Grandmothers. And we thought it was going to be for 1 year, and then they got together and decided to become the International Council of 13 Indigenous Grandmothers and decided they wanted to come under the blanket of the Center for Sacred Studies. And so for the next decade, we would help organize, raise money, go to the gatherings, make sure all the things were set in motion for those gatherings, and do all of those pieces to get behind and carry that prayer in the best way we could. And each grandmother was taking us to her own home territory. So we were literally visiting the bigger picture through each of the grandmothers' cultures, where there was different language and different dress and different behaviors and different nuances and different understandings. That's how we would come to be unified in our understanding, was to embrace the diversity. So we're on the way. Grandmother Sering is hosting us. We're going to Dharamsala. We're going to go meet with His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. She's already helped, and we've already gotten it arranged for the grandmothers to come and sit in a private audience with His Holiness. And many of his family and his government were going to be greeting us and meeting us and teaching us throughout the time that we were there, along with the people that went along with us during that time. We're about 6 weeks out from getting there. I need another, I don't know, $65,000, $85,000 in order just to pay the bills, so we'd all be completely, zero balance. Good job. And I'm waking up in the morning and I'm having all this anxiety, and it's like, oh, it's very intense. And I called the bad angel over here, was saying, and if you don't raise this money, then it's going to be your fault that the grandmothers don't go get to sit with His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. And on this side was the good angel saying, just breathe, just breathe. A dear friend of mine called and said, I don't know what you're going through, but sit down. They've got a mantra to share with you. So I sat down, I went into meditation, and I got the mantra that you gave. And I began to use that mantra from the moment I got up in the morning until I went to bed at night. A mantra is only as good as your discipline to use it. Mm-hmm. And it became such an amazing teaching for my life. I am the Divine Mother. She lives in me, and everything she needs comes to me easily. See, there's a trust in that. There's an understanding in that. That reciprocity of life occurs when you say this mantra. You don't have to go do it. You don't have to, it's none of that Western thinking. It's a totally different way of holding life and working with what you've been asked to minister in this life. And so I started saying this, and we got to India, and the last $10,000 was to pay off the bill for the hotel, was given to me by a princess in the lobby.
Yes. That's how it works.
That's how it works. Not just for the material, I want to remind you, although it works on all levels. So it was told that when I pass a mantra, that I need to say it 3 times in order for you to have that mantra. And if you pass it on, then you can do the same thing, please, by offering it 3 times as you pass it on. That way we'll honor the mantra and where it came from.
I love it.
So I'm going to say it real slow so that all of your listeners can say it right behind me. And you can also write it down so that you really get it until you fully get it. Mm-hmm. I am the Divine Mother.
I am the Divine Mother.
She lives in me.
She lives in me.
And everything she needs.
And everything she needs.
Comes to me easily.
Comes to me easily.
I am the Divine Mother.
I am the Divine Mother.
She lives in me.
She lives in me.
And everything she needs.
And everything she needs.
Comes to me easily.
Comes to me easily.
I am the Divine Mother.
I am the Divine Mother.
She lives in me.
She lives in me.
And everything she needs.
And everything she needs.
Comes to me easily.
Comes to me easily.
And so it is, and so it shall always be.
Yes. Thank you so much. I love that. Well, Jyoti, your words have been so nourishing. Before we log off here, how can people stay connected to you and follow all of the wonderful projects that you're a part of?
You can go to the Center for Sacred Studies.org.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've got that right.
I'll connect it as well. So
yeah, please do. And thefountain.earth. Those are the two websites. You can also go to motherearthdelegation.com. Those are the three organizations and things I'm affiliated with and helping to hold and cultivate and midwife and walk with and learn from, all of the above. And tomorrow at 2:00 Pacific time, every third Saturday of every month, the Mother Earth Delegation does an hour-and-a-half prayer, online prayer call where they bring their own languages, their own stories, their own teachings, so that we will know better how to walk in these times and be present in them.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Well, Jyoti, thank you for sharing your time with us today. I truly think that this was such a beautiful experience for us to just listen and learn. So thank you so much again for coming on today with us.
No, thank you. Thank you for the good work that you're doing and the spiritual sense that you're bringing to the world.
Thank you so much. Well, guys, there you have it. This has been an amazing episode, and I truly hope that you use it to inspire those around you. And as usual, I will see you next time on In a Spiritual Sense.
Benedicti. Kilkacht gus mór siol nandri.
Gratitude for this opportunity to be here in this incarnation upon this planet. Gratitude to the gift of life we've been given, to all our ancestors lined up behind us. We are the reality of their dreaming.
Let us come together in one mind, as one heart and one body. Ay, ay.
Hatunga pokamba ursatami manyani. Sumak yueita, sumak shungutan yukanchik takui.
My name is Jyoti. I'm one of the wisdom keepers. An amazing circle of beings that have come from all different parts of the world because they were called here. Our First Nation peoples have a way of life that is sacred and has been given to them by this Mother Earth and Father Sky, and it is the remedy of this time. That I am sure of.
Personas que viven con la nueva tecnología es que están muy separados de la naturaleza. Hace que no puedan tener ese viaje con el corazón, la mente y el espíritu.
それを教えていたのが先住民族であり、長老たちであり、シャーマンたちでした。本当にその意味を知ってる人たちがもう隠れていないでもっと表に出てきた。
Our mother is crying. She's literally crying to her children for help.
The message that she brings today is, are you listening?
Allow your soul to feel.
se está muriendo. ¿Cómo es posible que la gente no puede sentir o ver eso?
We are listening. You have called us to wake up in this time. Help us stay strong so we can march forward now on a planet with one heart.
We're able to feel through direct experience what it's like to come together like our ancestors once came together, to reflect, to pray, to listen.
Es por eso los indígenas estamos viajando a muchos lugares para poder ayudar, para que la gente pueda conectarse con la naturaleza y especialmente con su corazón.